My mother gave me this card on my 60th birthday. And inside, she wrote a poem just for me. My darling Sarah Lee, as time goes by so fast, I took the time to reflect on the past. In your pre-teens, I failed you as a mother. I wasn't a role model, and neither was your father. At the age of 9, I sent you away for a year. That was my worst day, for I shed many a tear. Your father moved from place to place till I could no longer keep up pace. Finally, at age 14, you ran away and came to Esther for a place to stay. Oh, miracle of miracles, God heard my prayer. I knew one day God would finally hear. At age 15, we lived together but couldn't get along. I walked out on you, even though I knew it was wrong. I hope that someday you'll forgive all my mistakes. What makes this poem special for me is that my mother acknowledged her role in my very difficult and chaotic childhood, and she asks for my forgiveness. So what is forgiveness? It's something that you can give and something that you can receive. But is it a deliberate act, or does it just happen? Tonight you're going to hear a small part of my story in which forgiveness has helped to shape my life. Mom, did you always know you liked women? Well, honey, when I look back on it, yes, I did know. Well, why did you get married then? Why? Well, that's what everybody did then, honey. We didn't know better. Everybody got married and had children. He was so handsome, your father. Oh, I couldn't believe he wanted to marry me. Why did you stay with him, Mom, if you knew that? Why did you stay? Well, it was for your children. That's why we stayed. You know, your father and I, we made an agreement. We'd stay for you, and when we were dating, he'd go his way and I'd go mine. That didn't work out always, did it, Mom? No, it didn't. You know that my love interest at that time, Marie, she was interested in your father, and when she came over, she only had eyes for him. A couple of years into the marriage, my mother began to acknowledge her sexual feelings for women. That was over 60 years ago. She began to dress like a man, and she began to work like a man and play like a man. As a result of all of this, my mother couldn't take care of us, and she had us with different relatives at different parts of our times of our life. And as a result of that, I went to many different schools. And in one school, this is what I wrote. How I like school so far. Well, the first day of school, I was very scared. I got along very well until I asked Diane if she wanted to play with me. She said, "Leave me alone, go away." And some of the other children aren't very friendly here. In my other school, PS 80, I lived with my aunt, and I was very out of hand and very unhappy, even though I love my aunt. I always had fights in school, and I was the teacher's pet. Everyone tried to help me. It didn't work. I went to the lady principal, who liked me very much. She thought I had to go to the hospital, and so did my family. I didn't always want to fight and wanted to improve, but somehow it never worked. You see, I was shifted around to 2 aunts and 2 grandmas and everywhere. My mother and dad are separated because when my mother introduced my dad to her best friend, they fell in love and they ran away together. I lived mostly with my Aunt Esther. I adored her. She was so femininely beautiful, unlike my mother. And unlike my mother, she spent time with me. She played with me and she understood me. And I had a built-in family. There's my cousin Pamela and me and my brother and my cousin Amanda and my cousin Eli. It seems so unfair that my Aunt Esther was not my mother. A couple of times my mom tried to make a go of us living together. So it usually ended up in disaster. Like the time she tried to make fried chicken, she set the kitchen on fire. One time, we woke up alone in bed in the house, and she wasn't there. "Mommy, where are you? It's dark. Where are you?" "Sara Lee, I'm afraid." "Don't worry, Frankie. I'll take care of you. Don't be afraid." That night, we cried ourselves to sleep. I hated it when my mostly absent mother tried to discipline me. "You can't tell me what to do. I hate you. I wish you would die of cancer." One day, I heard my mother on the phone with my father. "Marvin, I can't take her anymore. It's not just about the money. I can't take her anymore. If you don't take her, I might end up killing her." Marie, the woman who stole my father from my mother, could not have children. So it was decided to take me. And what began as helping out my mother became a real kidnapping. I did not see my mother for 5 years. I was sure she had abandoned me. You know, I think I'm skipping ahead here. Okay, that evening, they drove me to the airport. They put a name tag on me like a piece of luggage and entrusted me to a stewardess. They waved goodbye. I remember looking out the window, seeing the lights of the runway and then the lights of the city, and I thought it was so beautiful. And then I got sick. When we arrived in Miami, my father and his wife were waiting. Now, I think I might be a little ahead of myself. There we go. Okay. They took me home. My own room was a couch in the dining room. That first night, we sat in the living room and I colored in my coloring book. And for the first time, I was the only child around, and I was expected, and I thought I was wanted. But before the night was over, my father slapped me in the face. I had never been hit in such a way before, never so violently. I knew from that instant that it was a mistake to be there. I was trapped. Yes, they wanted a child, the idea of a child, but not me. From that moment on, my father and I were at war. Neither of us would give in. It was like he wanted it his way and I wanted it my way, and we hated each other for it. He was determined that he would break my spirit, as he often told me, and I was determined that he wouldn't. I lived with Marvin and Marie for 5 years. It was a time filled with emotional and physical abuse. At the age of 14, an opportunity arose where I could leave that abuse behind. I took it and ran away. We were visiting New York City, and I remembered that my grandparents lived nearby. I went in search of them, looking at mailboxes and ringing bells, and I found my Aunt Esther. She lived on the top floor of a 3-story walk-up, and she called down, "Who is it?" "Sarah Lee." "Who?" "Sarah Lee." "Sarah Lee! Oh my God!" About 2 hours later, my mother appeared. I was afraid of her, having been told repeatedly that she was a bad person and she did terrible things with other women. I didn't want to be near her. She was dressed up, but she had lipstick on and her hair was done, and she kept her distance. Later she told me it took all her will not to hug me and hold me close. Years passed and more turmoil before I truly came to appreciate and love my mother. She told me her story. It was as dark as anyone here could imagine. And I knew I had to forgive her as she had learned to forgive others. She was also able to be more present for me. And my deep anger softened into tenderness. And through the years, we grew closer still. My mother was unique. She was loving, kind, forgiving, and very, very funny. Unlike me. 2 years ago, my mother left me this phone message from one of her hospital stays.
I love you, I love you, I love you. Okay, I want to tell you, you are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You always make me happy. My skies are gray. I love you.
The very next day, my mother died. I hope that someday you'll forgive all my mistakes. A kiss, a hug, and I love you is all that it takes. You've achieved so much with all you've gone through that I'm so happy in sharing my life with you. All my love, all my life, forever and a day, Mom.